Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Paige and today I have a very late wrap up of my November books that I read in 2021. I did not film a lot in the later part of 2021 and so I did not ever post an October, November, or December reading wrap ups. Better late than never. I did want to tell you what I read and so this is the books that I read in November. I read 17 books in November. I read 12 5-star reads and 5 4-stars. The first 3 books I read in November is all of a series. I binged the series because it was so amazing. This is On the Rope series by Martinez. Each of these 3 books follows the 3 brothers in this family. This revolves around the older brother and they are kind of growing up in a horrible situation. Their parents really don't care about them, so he is like he's going to school and working these jobs, trying to keep food in the house and paying the rent and trying to keep him, like the social worker, from taking his brothers away from him. And he's kind of like doing the job that his parents should have been doing. But one night he just enters into this like abandoned building to kind of like escape. And he sees this girl is already in this abandoned building because she is drawing. She's like an artist. Her mother does not want her to draw. She found this abandoned building to, you know, bring her art supplies to so she can get away and draw. And so they meet each other there and they become, you know, they meet each other there, you know, quite frequently. And they become best friends, even though they do go to school together. But he doesn't really want the other people to kind of know that, because you know he doesn't really see himself in such a great light. He thinks that he is below her, beneath her, that he's not good enough for her, and he doesn't want her image to be brought down by associating with him. So they really only talk to each other outside of school when they're in this building together, and that's like their like safe place, their haven. You know, he lives for these moments with her. And then he does eventually get not custody, like legal custody, but his parents disappear and he has his brothers, and so she steps in to help him with his brothers. And so there is this really, like, they all kind of band together and form this little family. But he takes this opportunity at this gym that is being opened up in their town. He gets to go to this gym and learn how to box for, like, you know, underprivileged kids. And this really helps him because he uses this to his advantage to try to have a better life. But he's also has this condition where he's losing his hearing and he will eventually be deaf one day. And this is what eventually happens in the book. And so they're, you know, trying to find their way with him losing his hearing and being deaf. And also he always has this insecurity in the back of his head that she is so much better than him. And this is kind of the conflict that happens in the book, is where he just thinks that she deserves so much more than he can give her. But to her, you know, he's her world. And I really enjoyed this first book in the series, which made me want to pick up the other ones. The second one follows the middle brother in the family. He loses the ability to walk, so he is in a wheelchair. He has a disability now, and he is just really bitter at life. You know, he doesn't understand why this happened, and he meets this girl. She's kind of a runaway sort of character. She has just been in and out of foster care. She doesn't want to go back. And they form, you know, she kind of brings like this interesting aspect to his life, kind of makes him forget a while and bring him back to the land of the living, basically, because he's just been holed up in his apartment for so long. And she brings out a side of him. She kind of brings him back to life, even though she's going through a lot as well. I didn't love this one as much as the other 2 in the series, so I rated this one 4 stars. And then I read the third one, which was Fighting Solitude. This revolves around the youngest brother, and he also has the same condition as his older brother because it's like genetics. And he will lose his hearing one day. But he grows up at this gym and because his brothers go there as well. And one of the guys who works at the gym, I think he's like security, his daughter, they really form this tight, you know, real friendship. They're best friends until something happens and she leaves, and they don't see each other for a few years. And in that time, he has a girlfriend, which she does become friends with as well. So they're like all three best friends, and something tragic happens. I don't know if it's a spoiler or not. I don't think it's a spoiler, but just in case, something tragic happens and they both are grieving, and this is their romance and between the two best friends. And I love this book so much, especially the end, because it just kind of brought it back full circle. The heroine from the first book, you know, are kind of older now, and they're just kind of like looking at what they've made and what, you know, she tells him like, this is what you've done. You raised your, you know, you were struggling to make ends meet. You were working like 3 jobs just to feed your brothers and give them a place to live and make sure they're going to school. And you created all this, you know, we worked so hard, and this is our family, and now they have so much, you know, they're famous boxers. And I just love this book, this series. You have to read the series because you will get so much more out of it, because I love the found family aspect of this, that they came from nothing and built a great life for themselves, and all the romances are so sweet as well. The next one I read is Forever Right Now by Emma Scott. I kind of went down an Emma Scott hole in the month of November, and I read quite a few books from Emma Scott. But this is about a girl who comes to live in this new city. She has been an addict in the past, but now she is clean, and she is striving to stay clean. And so she just kind of wants to make a new life for herself. So she moves to this new city. She moves into this house. It's like a huge old house that is separated into different apartments. And there she meets a single father. He's raising his daughter on his own, and he's fighting for custody for her. And she helps him out with his daughter, but she doesn't tell him about her past because, you know, it's not something that she really, she tries to just kind of forget that side of herself. But then it kind of backfires on her at some point where, you know, he's fighting for custody for his daughter, and she has been an addict, so it really looks bad in the custody case. But this is their romance, and it was very, very sweet. I rated it 5 stars. The next one I read is The Butterfly Project by Emma Scott. This revolves around a girl who writes comic books, and she has come, I think, to New York to meet with a publisher, and the publisher really likes her comic books that she's written, but she feels like there's something missing. And so she tells her, you know, like, if you can make this better, you know, we will reconsider publishing it for you. She's just really down in the dumps. She ends up going to this restaurant, you know, because she doesn't really know where to go from here. And she meets the guy who's like a server at the restaurant, and they get to talking, and he encourages her to try again, you know, and they end up becoming roommates because she needs a place to live and he needs more money. He has been in prison before, and he's like still on parole or whatever it is, where, you know, the officer has to come make sure, do the home checks and make sure that he's staying out of trouble, staying clean, all that. But they do end up as roommates, and of course it leads to more. And then I read Unbreakable by Emma Scott. This is about a guy who is a single dad now. He and his wife are divorced, and sorry, my cat just like went berserk. He and his wife are divorced, and now he's a single dad, and she is trying to take her daughter and move, you know, like across the country from him, fighting for the rights, you know, to stay in his daughter's life, and he needs help. And so he meets his attorney, and they meet kind of in an unusual way. They are both at the bank at the same time, and while they're at the bank, robbers come in and hold them, all the people at gunpoint as hostages in this robbery attempt. And so they are just having a really, you know, scary time of their life, and they get to know each other through the days that they're being held hostage at this bank. And they are eventually rescued, but she helps him out because she is an attorney and she knows that he needs the help. He can't afford a good attorney, and so this is their romance. It was good. Not my favorite of Emma Scott, but I still rated it 5 stars because it is still a really great book. And then I read How to Save a Life. This follows a girl and a guy who are going to school, and they he is adopted into this family, but they don't really like him very much. He's just kind of like an afterthought. And so his goal is to, you know, save up enough money and move away. And she is kind of from a bad background to a tragic past. They meet, and, you know, this is their romance, but then something terrible happens where he is blamed for something that he did not do, and he is sent to prison, and then she has to figure out her life, and she's just kind of abandoned. And she gets into this really bad situation, so he breaks out of prison to come help her. And so now he's like a fugitive, and they're both on the run, and it's really, really interesting and intriguing. But he's also can kind of like see visions in his dreams, so there's kind of like a kind of like a touch of magic in this book and in the next book. The next one I read is Sugar and Gold by Emma Scott. This is about a guy who is like an empath, and he can see people's emotions like in colors, and it's very loud to him and really draws his energy. And so he kind of stays out of cities because it is just so super overwhelming to him. But he's really good at poker because he can like read people very well, since he can kind of read their emotions. And so he's really good at poker, and that's how he makes a living. He just goes from town to town winning these poker games. And he comes to this town and he meets this girl, and she's comes off very surprising to him because she doesn't like drain his energy like most people do. She actually gives him peace and is very calming. And this is their romance. And it was the 2 books in this series are really good, and I rated them both 5 stars. The next one I read is Sheldon Gillian by Susan Stoker. I honestly do not remember this book at all. I'm not going to go back and try to look up and see what it was, because obviously I rated it 4 stars to begin with, but I don't really remember it at all. So I don't know, I probably should lower my rating. And then the next book is In Harmony by Emma Scott. This is also another great one by Emma Scott. This girl comes to live in this small town. She's from like New York City. Something terrible has happened to her. She has been sexually abused, and she has told no one, but she's just, it's really hard for her, and she doesn't know how to handle it. And they get to, her dad they have to move because her dad is assigned a new job in a different location. And at first she hates moving. She really finds peace in the small town of Harmony, and there she meets a guy from school, and she really gets to know him very well at the theater because she signs on to, you know, start to play in the next play put on by their local community theater. And he is an aspiring actor. He is really great at what he does, and that is like his key to get out of the small town. He hates Harmony. That's where he grew up. He's not had a great past. His dad is abusive. He's just waiting until he can leave, and she's kind of the exact opposite. Now she's found a place where she feels more peace and is learning to live again, but they do end up falling in love, but you know, he's leaving, she's staying, and so it's like how are they going to work around this type of situation? And it was really good, and I rated it 5 stars. And then I read Starting from Scratch by J. Northcote. This is kind of a shorter book. This is a male-male romance, and this revolves around this guy who he is trans, and he is kind of afraid to have started a relationship because he hasn't ever like been in a relationship since he's transitioned. And but he meets this guy through his roommates, and they start dating, and this is their relationship, and it was so sweet. I loved their relationship so much. You know, he's very insecure about himself, but you know, the other guy, his partner, lets him know that, you know, hey, there's nothing to be ashamed of, you know, you are who you are. And this was their romance, and it was so good. I loved it a lot, and I rated it 4 stars. And then I read The House by the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I had put this one off for a long time because the romance is not as heavy in this book, and I live for romance. It is what I love. But I'm really glad I did read it. The found family aspect in this book is so wonderful. I loved it. It really makes up for the lack of romance. But I listened to this on audio, and I really recommend doing so because the narrator for this book does like all the different voices for all like the different children who live at this orphanage. This is an orphanage for magical beings, supernatural beings, and these are like the most dangerous children there are of the supernatural children. And so he's kind of terrified, but he's like a caseworker. He goes around to the different orphanages and makes sure that they're being run properly, the children are being cared for like they should be. And he has, it's so funny, when he doesn't realize that these are like the most dangerous children until he gets there and opens the files, and then there's like the first one he reads is Lucy, which is, his name is Lucifer, he's the son of the devil, and he faints because he's so terrified. But really the children are such a delight. They each have such a quirky, fun personality, and like Lucy, like he's such a delight to read. You know, he is the spawn of Satan. He's very dark and wants, you know, always is joking around about, you know, causing destruction in the world and all this. And it's also a little sad too because he sometimes has nightmares that just kind of like overtakes him, and so he really struggles with himself, like that side of himself. But all these children, there's like gnomes, there's sprites, there's the spawn of Satan, there's just like different magical beings, and they're children, and I think Lionel, I think that's the caretaker's name, he just has this affection for all these children, and they kind of show him a side that, like, you know, he believes that things should be done a certain way and no other way, but there's actually, you know, he kind of learns to see them in a different light. And these children they've kind of just hidden away on this island because of people not accepting them, and he fights for them. And I love this story. It's so sweet. Okay, so I'm back. I actually had to take a phone call. So I was talking about the House by the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, and I really don't remember the last thing I said, but I did rate it 5 stars. And then I read Trusting Cassidy by Susan Stoker. This is the 3rd book, I believe, in that series. The Silverstone Towing series, I think is what it's called. I don't remember much about it. I had enjoyed the previous books in the series, but this one kind of fell flat for me. And then I read Love Flushed by Evie Mitchell. This is the 2nd book in her All Access series. The heroine in this story has, I think it's Crohn's disease, but it's like a chronic illness, and it really affects her a lot. She lives with this chronic illness, and she has founded her business, of making toilet paper, all from her having this chronic illness, because with having Crohn's disease, you know, it's a lot of, you know, going to the bathroom and bathroom emergencies, and she has had bathroom emergencies before having no toilet paper, and so she based her business on making toilet paper. but she has kind of like a supply issue with the supplier, and she has to go in business with her ex-fiance. Something happened. It was a huge misunderstanding and why they didn't get married in the past, and she really hates him because of what happened, but she never knew the full story of what happened. But this is like their second chance romance, and it was so amazing, and I rated it 5 stars. And then I read The Girl in the Love Song by Emma Scott. This is the first book in the Lost Boys series. So the 3 books in this series follows the 3 Lost Boys at this school. They're kind of like the loner guys, the guys that, you know, they're not popular, nobody understands them, and just kind of the outcast. So this story is about Miller and Violet, which if you have read the Puck series by Helena Hunting, you can kind of understand my thing with the hero and heroine's names of this book, because in the Puck series, Miller and Violet are brother and sister. And this series is the heroine and heroine, so they're together. And so I was like, wait, Miller and Violet, that's just doesn't work. But anyway, he meets her one night when he and his mom are homeless, and he is kind of like wandering around, and he finds her house because they're living in their car in the woods, and he finds her house, Violet's house, and she sees him and invites him inside. And from that day forward, they, you know, form this friendship. He always comes by. They are just best friends. It grows into more, but Violet never wants to admit it because she doesn't want to lose their friendship. She's never, her mother and father are constantly arguing and hate each other, and so she doesn't want their relationship, if they moved it forward, to end up like that, because she values their friendship so much. She doesn't want that to change. But he's completely in love with her, and he is an aspiring musician, and that is his goal, to, you know, build a better life for him, his mother, for Violet, everybody. And Violet's dream is to become a doctor, and Miller also is diabetic in this book, which is a really big deal for him. You know, he actually, Violet has to call 911 when he just collapses one night, and that is how they find out that he is diabetic, and he has it really, really bad. And it just really is a huge part of his life. You know, he has to constantly be, you know, making sure that he has something to eat, you know, checking his blood sugars, taking his insulin and everything, because it just really controls your life. And so it really shows the struggle of a person that is struggling with diabetes, and I really appreciated that in this book. But this is their romance, and it was super, super sweet. And so I immediately picked up the second book in that series, which is When You Come Back to Me, and this is a male story. This revolves around one of the Lost Boys, and he has had a very tragic past. His parents do not accept that he is gay, and so they had sent him to conversion therapy, which is super, super horrible, what he went through. And he comes out of that, just, it messes him up mentally so much that he immediately goes into like this therapy program, and he eventually quits that because, you know, he doesn't find it helping him at all. And now he is sent to live with his aunt and uncle, and he has to graduate high school in order to receive his inheritance from his parents. And he, along the way, falls in love with the quarterback at the school. The quarterback doesn't fully realize he's gay, and, you know, he comes to that understanding along the way. And but the boy with the tragic past, he's just feels like he's not good enough for him, and that he will bring him down. And so there's a lot of, it's just kind of a slow burn for their relationship, you know, for it to work out, because he kind of pushes him away and feels like he's just ruining his life by being there. And he really has to come to find himself and go through a lot of soul searching before, you know, they can have a successful relationship. but this book was so wonderful. I loved it just as much as the first one. And then the last book I read is the third book in the Lost Boy series. This is The Last Piece of His Heart, and this revolves around the third Lost Boy. He's been in foster care, and he is sent to live with an uncle, and like his senior year of high school, his uncle just kind of, the reason why he takes him in is for to help him work. He owns these apartments, and he takes his nephew in so his nephew can help him run these apartments. And so he's never really felt loved before. And then he meets Shiloh, which is the best friend of the heroine from the first book. And she is also going through a lot because she is being raised by her grandmother. Her mother really wants nothing to do with her. She knows that there is more to that story than she's ever known. She's never known her father. And when she kind of figures all that out, when the truth is revealed, it really devastates her. But this is their romance together, and they really find love with each other. And till something happens where he's sent to prison, and she has to continue on without him, and there's just a lot of twists and turns in this book, and but they persevere through it all. And this series is so good. I think it might be, but Emma Scott writes, I was gonna say it's I think my favorite series by Emma Scott, but I don't know if I can actually say that, but it is definitely one of my favorite series. Emma Scott just writes such amazing emotional stories, and I just love them all. So those are all the books that I read in November. Let me know if you've read any of these and how you like them. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.